Us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Courtney Staples. On today's episode, we're actually doing something a little bit different. Instead of doing our normal deal where we take a prompt from one of our listeners and then kind of extrapolate that out into a full-blown setting, we're going to be giving you a preview of things to come in the Worldbuild with Us podcast. We are rapidly approaching 100 episodes, which is just utterly shocking to me. But as a result, we're planning on kind of revamping the way that we do things on the world building jam session. And as a result, we're going to be previewing what that new updated list is going to look like today by having an entire episode based around doing a world building jam session. So without further ado, we've got 20 genres as opposed to the 6 that we were dealing with before, 20 different new themes. We've got new things that we're going to be focusing on. And oh man, I'm just going to go ahead and roll right into it. Speaking of the upcoming 100th episode, if you want to send in any questions for a Q&A session we're going to be having for that, please go right ahead and do so. You can go ahead and send an email to worldbuildwithus@gmail.com, and we will probably read your email and answer it. I mean, probably, unless it's a really bad email, but we haven't gotten many of those. So now, without further ado, let's go ahead and roll into the new genre. I'm actually not going to say all 19 of the new genres, but I will say that 20 forces us to roll twice and then combine 2 of them. So let's go ahead and see what our first new genre of this session is going to be. Okay, so we've got weird fantasy. Now, who wants to talk a little bit about weird fantasy before we get into it?
I love weird fantasy.
I know you do, Daniel.
Didn't we do an episode? I don't know, it was about weird fantasy, but I know we had talked about cosmicism and H.P. Lovecraft before. But if for whatever that episode was a long time ago, weird fantasy is essentially born from, really, I'd say Edgar Allan Poe and then H.P. Lovecraft and that kind of era. And it's about, like I would say, the incomprehensibleness of the cosmos and horror and alien entities intruding on our world and hopelessness, but also in more recent times with the new weird, it's become more about dealing with different ways of understanding the other. And I'm thinking China Miéville, for example, and a lot of the writers that come around his time started to reinterpret the new weird.
Absolutely. And that new weird is what I'd probably like to focus on a little bit more today, but we'll see how that goes later on. Now, as for the theme, again, we've got 20 new themes. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So let's roll the die and see what we get. Oh, how appropriate for the weird fantasy stuff. We have curses as our theme today.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And the first thing so we've got a weird fantasy setting. The focus is, or the theme is going to be on curses. And the first thing that we're going to be focusing on in this setting is a weapon. Okay.
Ooh.
Interesting. So who's got some ideas about a weapon in a weird fantasy setting that has the theme of curses?
The first thing that comes to mind for me with curses is like the curse of King Tut kind of thing, people going into archaeology sites and finding these artifacts that supposedly curse them and lead to their eventual demise. But here we could have that be an actual curse. So maybe it was a group of people exploring some ancient ruins, and they found this ancient weapon that at first seemed, really fascinating and, nothing particularly malignant about it. But over time, maybe the longer that it was outside of its ruin, it started to mess with things in reality.
I like that.
I like that as well. I love that idea. I have this kind of sub idea to go along with it, that this thing, it's not intentionally cursing people.
Mhm.
It just so happens to be a curse magnet. So it actually just it draws in curses around it, and if people get close to it, then they just get zapped by the curse as it's getting absorbed into by this weapon or this thing. It's almost like a dream catcher, but like a
Mm.
really evil version of it of some kind.
I kinda like that. Like, maybe the origin was some, like, ancient priest or sorcerer who had created this thing to harness the power of the curses for himself or herself, and but when it's, like, without that original owner, it just sort of absorbs and kind of lets, like, this aura around it of bad energy and curses.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's like to me it's almost like it's like a battery that's constantly being charged or
Mm.
something like that. It has no outlet, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
How do we define curses and when we're talking about them?
Well, see, the reason I chose these themes is that they can be intentionally vague on purpose.
Hmm.
So really, Daniel, what do you want curses to mean?
I mean, I'm not sure, but I think if it's going to be like, I guess the other question is who is like, is this what sort of setting is this? Is this a modern setting? I'm getting that vibe since we're getting kind of like a Indiana Jones, tomb raiding
Hmm.
potentially vibe. So are curses maybe um like bad things, quote unquote, going on in the world that are being collected? So certain behaviors that people are doing.
I mean,
um
I like the idea that these are like sorcerers who are actively trying to curse other people, and this thing is just absorbing them. So,
mhm,
in my mind, it's almost like this setting is fairly mundane because this giant magnet exists, right? Like, if it weren't for this thing absorbing as many curses as it does, then there'd be a lot more magic out there in the world.
Oh,
But
so
interesting.
are curses like a form of hate in the world that it's absorbing, is what I mean. Like, is it a
ah,
curse, not a magical thing, but is it like, say, I don't know, there's racism in Tennessee, or there's like a bombing in, like, I don't know, Chicago. Like, are those acts of violence and evil, are that's what's being absorbed into this thing?
so you're transforming curses not as like a magical incantation to
Hmm.
inflict upon an enemy, but like rather hatred as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can make that more specific, but I think it would be neat if it was like stuff being bleached from or leached away from the natural world into this fantastical world.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
Let's expand on that then. I like that concept.
Like, I guess, and a curse is about like putting a rule on someone, right? That hurts them in a sense.
Or it just causes pain. So there's all sorts of curses. Like, I mean, there's even ones as simple as like the evil eye, right? Where you
Right.
want people to wither and die. Or there's one I remember, it's from like you point a rib bone at someone and you say there, and it's
Hmm.
supposed to like inevitably drain that person of their life and vitality. But I
So
imagine
it's like
that
a
there are also,
punishment.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
These are. I imagine that these are like divine punishments in some way,
Hmm.
like King Midas's touch, right? Like that's a curse, I would say.
Hmm. So
Mhm.
maybe like what would be the equivalent of that in the modern world? Like, what are everyday curses that we're performing? We don't realize it.
I hate to do this, but Twitter,
Yeah.
Twitter in general.
Oh my god, I love that, because that would, okay, if it's somehow, maybe it's primarily digital and that's what's waking this thing up, like it's charging it now because we found a way to transmit our curses.
Oh, so it's actually being supercharged now, is what you're
Yeah.
suggesting.
So every time somebody online is like, "Oh, go kill yourself," or like it
Yeah.
says some like racist insult, it like actually gets absorbed into this thing.
Yes, that's what I'm picturing. Because think about, in the past, like when this sorcerer or this priest existed, and they used curses as magic, like they had a way of transmitting curses magically, right? And we lost that ever since that priest is gone, artifact's been gone. Now we have a way of doing it again, but we're doing it digitally.
Okay, this is definitely weird fantasy, and I'm loving it so far.
Imagine
So,
like League of Legends, the amount of
oh
Oh
curses
my
my
it's
god.
god,
like.
yeah, that's
Or
so. Yeah, there are certain
4chan.
things. Yeah, there are certain things that are just like created by evil warlocks
Yeah.
who are like, this game is created to siphon frustration and energy
Oh my god.
out of it. You know, like that type of thing. So okay, so we've got this idea, right? Like that curses are basically generated as, or this thing is basically a battery for
Hmm.
evil magic and evil power. So let's think about this weapon and think about this battery and who's using it and how it's being used and what can we do with it.
Hmm.
So I feel like Elon Musk would want to use this.
You're not wrong
Nope.
at all. But let's go a little bit more fantastical
You're
with
right,
it
right.
then, right? Like let's take the idea of using curses and then give them to people. Like is this thing, or is it just one weapon, or is it a series of weapons that people can use? And so they're using items that are basically cursed by internet curses and then utilizing them elsewhere.
I'd like it to be one weapon because it's in weird fantasy and other kind of adjacent genres. The magic is usually very limited, or if it is limited, it's very powerful and rare or
Sure.
dangerous. And if we kind of give everyone something, now it's more like either superheroes or wizards again.
Yeah, sure. So
Mhm.
what's the focus then? Because right now we could basically pretend that we're living in a weird fantasy world.
Right.
So
Oh,
how do
maybe
we
maybe we go back to what Courtney was saying. Like it's been unearthed, and so maybe by unearthing it, whoever has it now, they're poisoning or contaminating people because of the possession of it. So like whoever took it out, right, and has it, I don't know whether or not they understand what it is, but they have it. And I imagine this thing is like a piece of irradiated metal, essentially, of hate. So it
Mhm.
must be like emitting this stuff wherever it is. Like maybe it was taken to a facility in a suburban town, or maybe it was that's like it's on the periphery of the suburban town, this facility, or maybe it's been taken to an Amazon warehouse, or maybe it's been taken someplace where there's a lot of population around it, and
Mhm.
now it's having its effect because it's heightened these curses. Like and the people who are using or have access to it, like they probably are contaminated by it. Like I'm thinking like a Chernobyl, but with hate.
Can we have these curses manifest in some way?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, because I think that would be really fun. Actually, what might be interesting is that the people who are absorbing these curses, maybe they are becoming like possessed or
Mm-hmm.
they're manifesting on their person. So we can get a little bit of like body horror in there as
Yeah,
well or
Mm,
like
something
the
like
yeah.
nature
that.
of the curse. So I could see if it's contaminating people. Maybe what it does is it starts to manifest physically, like you're saying, or their psychology
Yeah.
changes for the worst.
Absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
actually if we want to go to the classic Stephen King way, there's the idea of Thinner. Do you know that book slash movie?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Vaguely, yeah.
you could have, like manifestations of hate
Mm-hmm.
be curses in that way. So there's this
Yeah.
town that where like people are just like either going incredibly fat, or maybe they're becoming internet trolls but in real life,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm.
there's all sorts of interesting weird shit that we can do. I'm actually thinking of have you ever read the graphic novel Black Hole by any chance?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, okay, so that is like it's an allegory for the HIV and AIDS epidemic, but the way that it's an STD that basically manifests in weird mutations on people. And I think that having the curses be something like that, where it's like a physical change that is just a physical manifestation of the curse, would be really interesting. So, in my mind, I'm thinking something along the lines of, these people become pretty monstrous in a way. I think that'd be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to kind of
Mhm.
explore.
Yeah, I mean, this allows for is now the thing itself, like the object itself, becomes this mysterious background thing, and
Yes.
if you end up centering the horror of what these people experience, and so you can have a bunch of individual stories, and there's an unknown source. Maybe there's like an investigator, as there always is, and at least the classic, the weird, trying to
I,
figure it out.
I was actually going to say, Daniel, I think that we could do a big favor to you and have this be an X-Files type
Oh my
setting.
god, that would be great. Yeah, that's what I'm picturing. Like if you actually put it in a weird suburb or like some strange town, that's classic kind of Lovecraft.
I'm thinking mountain town because
Yeah.
I'm imagining that the government knows about this thing and they've buried it deep within like an abandoned coal mine, but it's still like leaking up and affecting the citizens and stuff like that. But it's not evident, right? Like it's kind of like, oh, this person just kind of went crazy, or oh, this person just committed suicide or something like that. And like those are the leaking.
This person clawed out their family member's eyes, that
right.
kind of...
right. And until it starts to get really nasty, where people start to grow like an extra mouth or something like that. Like.
Well, I was gonna say, like, what really freaks me out too is I watched the show, the show on HBO called Chernobyl. That's like a kind of gives you a really close look.
Show.
It was amazing and horrifying, and I'm thinking like, I could have pictured the horror of trying to get to this coal mine, but it's not that you physically. Well, I mean, you probably do. It's not that like you're literally melting, which is what happens in Chernobyl, but it transforms your psychology and in some cases your physicality in such ways that by the time you get there, you've probably eaten each other or murdered each other, or something horrible has happened before you finally got into the thing.
Oh,
I really like that.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. So we've got like a monster of the week style game, and honestly, you could do this. Like if we were running this as a tabletop RPG, I could see it being either you're playing the government agents who are trying to figure it out, and there's like a side conspiracy that their agency actually knows what's going on. And then alternatively, you could just be like, you could play this on kids on bikes. And
I was thinking that,
like, yeah, like you're just like teenage kids, like what the hell's going on with our parents? Like stuff like that.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, like either of those options I think would be really, really cool. And you could do like a Stranger Things with it, except way more horrifying and better. Because I think I stopped caring after season 2 or like midway through season 2. I don't remember.
Yeah, same.
Season 3 was rough.
The first one.
Season 3 was not great. Yeah.
Did you watch season 3?
I did. Yeah, it was not ideal.
Yeah,
I only watched like a few episodes of season 2, and then I was like, "What? This is like, what is new here? Nothing."
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. Although Daniel, I feel like you'd probably be one of the people who'd like episode 8 of season 2, where everything is like incredibly new and different. And it's
really?
Oh.
I really liked the aesthetic of Stranger Things, but I felt like, okay, I'm not being given anything new. Like I get that they're doing a great job recreating this, what do you call it, like retro vibe of that time period. Yeah, and I felt the nostalgia, but I was like, what are you adding to the concept?
Yeah. I think it's a show that leans really hard on its characters. Yeah. And then after season 2, the characters start to like kind of become little one note. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Especially season 3 becomes like very evident of that. They take certain characters just like become completely one-dimensional and flat.
Yeah. It's called the Flanderization, where no, that's it's an actual thing.
I heard about that recently. Yeah.
where characters stop becoming characters and they start becoming caricatures of the character that they
themselves.
Once were. Yeah, exactly. It's obviously named after Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, but it's actually kind of a fascinating, thing to think about in long-term form of media anyway. All right, so we are now at the point where we're going to toss in a twist that we're going to have to reconcile. And the twist list is still kind of updating. So this one's going to be less new compared to what you're expecting, but also shut up and you do it yourself then. I don't care. Anyway, let's go ahead and roll and see what we got. Okay. Clones are involved is the twist that we have for this one. So how does this happen? How does this work exactly? How are clones involved?
Clones. I guess we have to interrogate what clones means.
Well, actually, I have a fairly simple way of doing it, where this town that they brought this kind of cursed object to, the reason that the government brought it here in the first place is because they know that this town is filled with experimental clones, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, is it like one of those fake, the nuclear test towns? Is it like that concept? Oh, that's cool. Okay, I like that.
But filled with actual human beings,
actual human clones. Wow.
Yeah, exactly,
that's messed up.
Wow. So is the investigator? So I wonder, is the investigator someone who came to this town following leads? Like, is he one of those crazy, like conspiracy theorists trying to figure stuff out? He stumbled upon this town, or was it someone who's like an actual clone in the town who is an investigator who realizes the truth about himself and the rest of them?
Yeah, see, that's what you can do. You can do a lot of really weird and cool things within that setting, I think. And then not only that, you could take that clone idea a step further and have it be that this town is an experiment in some way.
Oh, I like that.
So, like the reason that they're using clones in this particular town is because they're like, okay, we need to figure out if we can colonize Mars. So what would this town look like? Like you could take just put it in a big glass dome city and tell all the fake clones that they're on Mars. And then that's the experiment to see what it would like. Or you could do it. You could do so many different things because you can have a bunch of weird, like basically take the idea of the vault from Fallout, like all of the different experiments that they had in the Vault series, and then plop it in this random town and then add curses onto it. And then bam, you've got yourself like a mixture and a soup that could really work, because the people in the town think everything's normal or think everything is a specific way until you start throwing on the curses. And then the setting is already ridiculous, but it also, you could really play it in a way that is pretty straight up to a certain point, right? Like you could have it be about, like a Cold War era town where it's like, oh, the bombs have gone off. We're the last city that exists. And that's the experiment, but again, I'm rambling here.
No, I think those are all like viable like scenarios. I mean, those are really cool,
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, going back to more references that I can toss out. What's the name of the Twilight Zone episode where it's like the lights all go out in certain houses? It's like the town after sundown or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I love Twilight Zone, but I don't remember that particular episode.
It's basically like the aliens are testing humans to see how little it would take for them to turn on each other. And obviously it's like almost nothing that starts to like build everything.
That also makes me think, now again, it's another one I can't think of the name of, but there was this movie, this indie time travel movie. I think it was technically a time travel movie that was similar to that, where it's like the lights have gone out in another house and they're like, and the rest of the town is suddenly silent, and it's on Netflix too. It's really good, but it's really short.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I don't want to mention the name of it because that is kind of a spoiler in and of itself.
Oh, it is? I forgot the name of it, but it's like if you can find that movie, it's cool because you have no idea what's going on until the end, and it all makes sense. It's kind
of... I'm like 99% sure I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't want to mention it.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I think that we've reconciled the twist pretty well. The idea that, you could have this government town that's using them all as an experiment of some kind. And then there's curses, like, why not? Right.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else that they want to add to this setting?
I just want to say, like, I think what was really critical in this was getting that first image from Courtney about something being unearthed. Because I automatically started to get the feeling of like, okay, Tomb Raider, but weird, right? And then it helped let us down that path.
Absolutely. Yeah, great job, Courtney.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so now we've burned through one of them, and now we're going to go on to another one. You guys are double dipping on the previews here, but that's kind of by design anyway. So the next one we're going to roll is for another genre that we're going to be doing a quick world building jam session with. And that genre is going to be steampunk for our next genre. And the theme that we're going to be rolling with is death,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. The
Wow.
new themes are something, like I said. And the first thing that we're going to be focusing on is something really important to the setting. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone really important to the setting that no one knows about.
Okay.
So we've got a steampunk setting with death as the theme. The first thing that we're going to be focusing on is someone in the setting who's very important that no one really knows about.
Hmm.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is like a lich, but steampunk style.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
was thinking about necromancy too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It
Okay.
was strange for us to go directly literal from death, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Because there is so I'm a big fan of the Iron Kingdom setting, which is basically magic plus mecha. And I'm a huge fan. And they have these things that are called iron liches. And I feel like we could probably do something that's like that in some way.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Basically a brain in a jar, but mobile and also a lich.
Mhm.
Now I'm thinking of Crane or Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay. Well, we can certainly go that way if you want to
He's
do it.
kind of steampunk.
He's definitely more cyberpunk.
Yeah,
though.
he's more
Yeah.
cyberpunk, but I could see him being a steampunk.
Just slap some gears on him.
Yeah, put some gears instead of all the little chicken legs.
Chicken legs.
Well, because he has that one form where he's like on this chicken leg machine.
Oh yes.
you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Technodrome.
All right. So do we now have a brain in a jar, but it's a steampunk mech instead?
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it being literally a brain in a jar.
Okay. Cool. So we now have to figure out why he's important and why no one knows about him. Is this kind of like a Xanathar situation where it's by design, where he's this incredibly powerful and influential figure, but he has like a facade that he hides behind? Like maybe he has a steampunk marionette that is his like figurehead, and he's like he's some important figure, and everyone knows him as the guy behind the glass that you can barely see the silhouette of something like that.
So is this kind of like since I've been watching Invincible recently, the robot dude?
Robot dude.
Yeah.
What do you
his
mean,
name is
Cecil?
His name is Robot.
Oh, kind of. Yeah.
Sort of.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you mean robot, or do you mean
actual
Cecil?
robot? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That
Sort
could
of.
work. That
Yeah.
I kind of picture him as like a businessman or an industrialist.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so that's his puppet, right?
Yeah. So that thing
Okay.
is his puppet, and he's actually just a brain in a jar.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like I need more parameters about the setting to understand know where I'm going.
Daniel, you can create as much as you want. It's steampunk, so
I
you know there's
know.
going to be factories, and there's going to be
Also-
electricity and gears and at least one Zeppelin. So
I guess I'll ask a bunch of questions then. Is this we were looking for like a higher fantasy kind of setting, right? So it's
it's steampunk. Steampunk is typically
yeah.
like a good combination of magic and technology in a weird, fantastical setting.
Yeah, but we're not doing like, okay, so there's like dimensions of that, right? So it's not like urban fantasy where it's like light magic and it's more like gas lamp stuff, and it's more like full on. Are there like wizards? Are we talking about a modern setting? Is it more medieval but steampunk? Like what world are we living in?
So steampunk is I would imagine that it's a combination of multiple things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we have steampunk as it is, we can really make it however we want. We can make it want to be. It's a little bit after Gaslight stuff.
Okay.
So it's like maybe Victorian era. Let's kind of peg it there.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then as for the needle on fantasy technology, I'm leaving that open. Courtney, why don't you come in and tell us how fantasy compared to how technological we want to make it?
Wow, leaving decisions to me. That's a risky one.
I know. I'm trying to stretch for time because I know that we have to, kill another 20 minutes in the podcast.
Mhm.
So.
Oh yeah, true. I would say definitely leaning more towards tech, like maybe 75% technology, 25% fantastical elements.
Sure.
Okay. So is the magic, quote unquote, really the genius, say, for example, of what this brain in the jar has accomplished? Like, is it psychical related as opposed to like wizards with spells?
Well,
Yeah,
see,
I think so. Or to me
I'm
at least.
thinking that, like the technological, like the 25% magic, maybe
Mhm.
that's like a new element or like a
Mm.
power source that can, power the technology that they have. It is like they found a super safe and super effective way to find I don't know, uranium or some kind of nuclear power
What
that does
if
something that's more fantastical,
what if that fantastical power is the power of the mind? Like they found a way to harness
Ooh.
brain power in a strange way, since it'll be in line with the theme of brain in a jar.
I mean, we have Brain in the Jar Lich, so yeah, why
Yeah,
not,
Might as
right?
well, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Like
actually,
that.
now that I'm thinking about it, right, this character is like he's tried to transcend the body by
Hmm.
becoming just brain, right? So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
Mm.
he's fully absorbed into the psychical research and the psychical emanations that come from this, and as a result, he is a brain in a jar and also an industrialist bad guy.
He sublimated himself.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that
Okay.
because it's a very narrow kind of use of magic. So we've got like the psychical brain power stuff. We've got a relatively Victorian setting with lots of tech, right?
Right,
Um
with
Mhm.
fantastical tech. That's
yeah,
correct.
and then we've got industrial. Are there multiple industrialists? Like I'm thinking Tesla versus Edison situation.
I imagine there would have to be. I feel like there's
I'd
always
like
gonna
to think
be.
that this is a
Yeah.
robust workplace where
Okay.
there's multiple, like
Mhm.
maybe like 4 to 5 major, not corporations because those won't
Hmm.
exist for another X amount of years, but like
Yeah.
something similar to that, right?
Like
Mhm.
robber baron sort of
Yes,
industrialists. Okay.
Mhm.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Even
Yeah,
though I know that's not the quite same time period, but I get the drift, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
No, you're in the
Yeah, yeah.
ballpark, and that's what
Yeah,
matters.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there another industrial? So maybe I wonder what are the other industrialists like? Is there a good one? Like a the Tesla to the Edison, if he's the Edison sort of profile?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay. Hold on. Now, I'm sorry. I keep
Mhm.
going back to that character, the brain in the jar.
Yeah.
He's now a psychic vampire. Um,
Ooh.
because
Mm.
you know how Edison basically just kept all of his patent workers in one building and stole all
Yes.
of their ideas and
Mhm.
He
took
was a real
credit for
asshole.
them?
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. This guy, this brain in the jar does that, but on a psychic level. He will take the
Oh,
thoughts and
Mm.
ideas from your head, like
to power stuff.
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's so
Or
cool.
just to
Okay.
steal the ideas and be creative, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because to him, that's what matters the most is that
Hmm.
he's the uber, like he's the one singular industrialist that's left and he doesn't care. All right, so we've got evil Edison brain in a jar. Perfect.
Hmm.
All right.
So before
uh
you had mentioned at least one Zeppelin, which kind of makes me think of there's this animator slash musician online goes by the name of Umami, and he has this really really weird series called Interface where there is this Zeppelin thing that like kind of absorbs and scans stuff, and I honestly don't know what the series is about. It's very very strange, but
Huh.
it's interesting, but makes it's fucking weird.
I was gonna say, like, it makes me think where the brain in the jar could be in a zeppelin or
Right,
something. I
exactly,
don't
that's
know.
what I was thinking,
Yeah.
like, what if he's, like, constantly moving around, constantly soaking up
Oh,
people's thoughts across the world,
like
so
a
you can, like,
Mm,
satellite.
never pinpoint where he. Yeah, yeah.
interesting.
And then
Interesting.
while he's physically elsewhere, because Rob was saying like his puppet is on the ground, but the
Mm,
brain in the jar is in the zeppelin like a satellite floating through the air. And they don't know where it is, which fulfills the original concept, like of not knowing where. Like, what was the original? The original premise, like not knowing what's important or who's the important person. So,
mhm,
like, technically, the brain in the jar is that the really important thing that we don't know about because we know about the industrialist puppet.
Right.
Hmm.
And I like the idea that, up and coming talent who go into this guy tend to disappear, or,
Yep.
at least on occasion.
So maybe the
Um,
other industrialist is a young, an up and coming industrialist who's young, who has a great new idea. Who in this, so a story could follow him teaming up with this guy, and then starting to realize the situation, and before it's too late. What was our theme? Oh, death. So yeah, so there you go.
mhm, yep.
Really, I like the idea of the stuff that's going on around it, though. I feel like this
Mhm.
is a real Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow
Yeah,
situation.
I
Mm.
love that movie.
Yeah, that's a great. It's a super underrated movie, actually. I
Hmm.
think it's really quite excellent. And this is like our chance to do like old 1920s pulp fiction stuff, where it's
Yes,
like
yeah.
we've got the Phantom and we've got, oh God, what, the Shadow, right?
Oh, I
Where
love that. The
we could
Shadow. You
have,
remember that movie?
yeah, it's terrible. That movie
It's
is
so
terrible.
bad and great.
Yeah. But the comics are actually really interesting. So
Oh, okay.
I would recommend taking a look at those. Or like oh, what's his name? Doc Morrow, Doc Samson. Do you know who I'm talking about?
It sounds
Mm.
familiar.
Where he's basically like, I am a science man. I do science. And then he like goes around punching people, and it's like
Yes.
it's basically, but he's also like as strong as Hercules, or like as strong as three men, and he's like a crack shot. It's like,
Is this
again,
from the
early
comic?
Pulp Fiction era
Oh, okay.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
Um
like that. Like the still kind of I was gonna not Silver Age. The kind of like the gold, like a golden age of pulp comics, right?
I would say this is pre Golden Age comics.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because Golden Age comics are like the supers. That's when the supers came out. This is
I'm trying
pre
to think
that
what's the
even.
name of the 50s pulp comics. Like this is it's funny because it's almost the same period as the
Daniel,
original Weird
they're
Fiction.
just yeah, they're just called pulp comics. That's like that's really that's all they are. Yeah.
Just trying to wonder if there was a name for that era. I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh man. So all right, so we've got the conceit of the world down, right? It's
Mhm.
basically a world of industrialists and brains in jars and psychic stones or psychic elements that fuel these like fantastical machines, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe the psychic stones is when you fossilize someone's brain and transmute it into psychical ether. They become those stones that then you can use. So the
Ooh,
stones are used to be brains.
Okay,
I
I
like
can get
that.
behind that.
That's cool.
I can absolutely get behind that. And then I'm going to throw in something even fucking weirder here, because why not? I'm going to say that the most potent brains that there, or the most potent stones that they find, are actually fossilized alien brains.
Oh yes, we can add
Yeah.
Ooh,
aliens. I
Yep.
love it.
yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's kind of like the crystal skull, but
Uh-huh.
not the awful Indiana Jones stuff, but like crystal
Yeah,
skulls in general,
that's
where it's
great.
like, oh yeah, we're just gonna drain these things of psychical power, basically.
Hmm.
What was that, that, like, brain mind thing that somebody linked in the world building channel recently?
Oh yeah, there
Oh,
where it's a town that is
the
settled on
mind
top
mine.
of, yeah, they
Yeah.
literally mine into the brain of something.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh.
we
Oh
could
yeah, I
have
remember that.
something, we could have something similar to that as well,
The
where it's like,
alien. It's lobes of the alien's brain. There's one giant alien in the earth that they've been mining its lobes to make the crystal skulls.
sure, why not? We
Supplemented
just
by
don't
human
know.
brains.
Oh
What
God,
if the
yeah.
Earth itself is an egg of an alien?
Oh man. And it's
Spoilers
hollow.
for Darkest Dungeon, but that is actually what happens at the end.
Oh.
You find out that the Earth is literally just an egg, and
Oh, that's
inside
Mhm.
it, these
terrible.
massive Praetorian monsters. And that is, in fact, what the ancestor has been warning you against forever.
Oh,
That's
wow.
nice.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrifying. I love Darkest Dungeon. I think there's so much that's awesome about Darkest Dungeon besides the horrible, horrible gameplay. And I mean horrible in a good way, by the way. I don't mean like I don't mean that in like a negative way. I think it's challenging, and it's supposed to be like mentally taxing on you as a human, you know?
What's that horrible movie that has a T-Rex and Nazis in a Hollow Earth?
Uh,
Oh wait, you lost me there. Wait, are you thinking of no,
It's also steampunk-ish.
I don't
no.
There's two
know.
movies. There's two of them. The second one, they go into the Hollow Earth.
I don't know, but there's also a series that has Nazis with dinosaurs, but it's a
Yes,
comedy
it's
one.
probably the same one. It's really funny and terrible.
Shit,
What's
what is it
that?
called?
There was also that movie that has David Hasselhoff in it, and he sings the song.
Triceraatops in that one? That's even more horrifying.
Yeah, Courtney, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I
Hold
know
on.
that. Shit.
True. Okay. It's True Survivor from Kung Fury.
Okay.
There we go.
I love Kung Fury. That's so
Yeah.
freaking epic.
Okay. Wow, Daniel, bringing back an unironic epic. Oh my god.
Although that's not the one I was thinking of, but I love Kung Fury.
Okay, because that's also what I was thinking that had
Yes.
dinosaurs and Hitler.
Yeah.
Okay, can we just acknowledge that there's probably too many like there's probably too many like media things that have Hitler and dinosaurs in them.
Yes.
Because I feel like that should be like a once in a blue moon type thing. And now it's like, oh man, we've got at least 6 settings with Hitler and dinosaurs.
Hitler riding dinosaurs, yeah.
Exactly.
Because it's so absurd.
I just Googled Nazis on dinosaurs, and it sounds like it might be Iron Sky 2 that you're thinking of, Daniel.
That's it.
Okay.
You got it.
Oh, okay. See, I never saw Iron Sky 2 because Iron Sky 1 is just the one where there's the Nazi moon base.
It's they take it a step further. Now the Earth is hollow. There's dinosaurs. It's just absurd.
So they're going based on like old, like actual Nazi occultism that they wanted to study. Got it.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, Danger 5 is the TV show that I was thinking of with also Nazis and dinosaurs.
Yeah, that's where Sensible Chuckle Magazine comes from.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this setting has gone off the rails, which I'm totally here for, but I think it's time that we throw in the twist because what else are we going to do, right?
Is it going to be Nazis on dinosaurs? Is that our twist?
I'm going to make sure that
add Hitler.
No. Oh god.
That should be a twist. Add Hitler. That's just all it says.
Well, isn't that just clones are involved? I feel like we can
we can make that happen.
All right. The setting so far is just a small work of art within the world.
Okay. So didn't we kind of sort of touched on that because there's aliens now. So it's a smaller scale of the whole thing.
It's actually like an alien terrarium.
Yes.
Oh,
Courtney, that's exactly what I was going to go for. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're basically in like a little bubble, and I mean, if we want to tie our other setting into it, then fuck it, right? Like we can, we're all in the same setting. We're just like the aliens are just experimenting on humans in different worlds and settings and stuff like that.
I mean, I can also see the brain in the jar guy, like he's a villain, right? But as they start to learn more about the crystal skulls and the aliens, they realize that he's not trying to like sublimate himself so that he can like lord over everyone. He's actually harnessing people's brain power and doing all this stuff because he needs to sublimate into the alien realm and defeat them. So he's actually a hero.
You're Dr. Dooming him. Absolutely, yes. Daniel. Yeah, he's like,
and he's training his assistant to help him.
I'm the only one who can can save humanity. And to everyone else, because he's a weird brain in the jar, they're like, oh, he's evil and needs to go down. Yeah.
So the apprentice has to make a decision at the end where he's like, gosh, I realize what he's trying to do, but he's also crazy. So do I help him or do I what do I do about these aliens and all that?
What I think is now even more interesting is that you can have agents of the alien trying to stop this brain in the jar. And you can have it so it's like they're literal Men in Black.
Oh my god, that makes me think of XCOM and the
exactly
the Men in Black
what I was thinking of. Yeah, where they're just like weirdly tall and gangly and stuff like that. Yes,
that's cool.
Okay, all right, so that is so fucking weird and wild. Jesus,
it's very it's very like a new weird steampunk, but at a comical level, you know.
I actually think that there's something that you could do within that setting that would be really fun and interesting to do. Although I have this weird fear that it would be like co-opted by libertarians, where it's like we're the brain in the jar and the government's the aliens, you know, like that type of shit. You know,
yeah. Then you just got to embrace it to its nth degree to make them seem absurd. You know, that's the way around that.
You don't have to do much to make libertarians.
That's true. Yeah.
Look at fucking Ayn Rand, for fuck's sake.
Oh my god.
Yeah. All right. I don't know about y'all. I feel like we've probably reached the limit for our 2 settings here. Do we want to add anything else together before we move on? No. Okay. So I don't know about you, but I feel like we've probably reached the ending to our 2 settings today. I hope that you've enjoyed this preview of what's to come in the upcoming post episode 100 season of World Build with us. Remember that if you want us to build your world with this new updated world building jam session, you can always email us over at worldbuildwithus@gmail.com. Remember that we are hoping that you'll send in some Q&A questions that don't necessarily have to be world building related. If you just want to ask Daniel why he's such a grumpy old man, if you want to ask Courtney, well, actually asking her anything will take another 20 minutes. So
Wow.
you can just ask her any question. That'll be fine. Or if you want to ask us any questions whatsoever, go ahead and send us to that email. Or if you'd prefer, you can go ahead and shoot us a tweet over at Let's World Build, and we will use it for the show there as well. Alternatively, if you want to come join our Discord and ask us a question, just drop it in the Discord. That's fine too. We'll gather it up. We'll hoover it up over on the Discord, which will link for that in the description. And if you liked us so much that you want to give us money or feeling particularly generous, you can always do so by following us on Patreon. Link for that also in the description. Remember, friends, that we love you very much, and we're going to get through this together. Until next week.